So here is day 2, and this is part 1 with Escher because I did several small sessions throughout the day, around probably 10 to 15 minutes, I'd say, per session. Anytime I had a chance, kind of came over and played with him a bit. So here I'm just working a little bit with teaching him the pressure on the halter and making sure I can get him that nice response. I also worked a little bit with some positive reward with hay because he's pretty food motivated. But again, he is a baby horse that we are figuring out the lines of communications and the rules of engagement. So just kind of working on a little bit of going back and forth, getting him to yield his body some, moving his feet, and then being his friend and getting some flies off his face. So being in Florida, the flies are pretty bad. So I'm just working on that right side a little bit, and you'll notice he'll kind of position his head, and I always keep my forearm and hand up a little higher just to help me. But there I gave him a little bit of a break, and then I'm able to catch him and yield his haunches. He's figured that out pretty quickly. And you can see the body language is much better in the more curious type where he wants to lower the neck or not head bobbing or arched. So I went back and I got some more hay. Working on building the click associated with the reward. And working on our touches. So there he kind of was trying to figure out how he felt about me there. You could see he had his head up and he flickered his ears kind of back, and then he was like, oh, she's got goodies. So again, we're just still in the process of him figuring out the relationship with me, kind of where I fit. Kind of who am I to him. And so, again, working on that right side, and sometimes we play a little bit of a positioning game. I'm actually going to reward him for dropping his head and moving off that pressure, even though we were kind of like wiggling around together. And I'm going to be kind of pretty giving a lot with the hay at this moment. I tend to kind of go back and forth with moving them around with pressure and release, and then positive reward as well. And each Mustang is very different in the way you can approach. And every Mustang that I've trained has always gone a little bit different. So it's always fun to kind of figure out how the journey unfolds with each one. You see he's pretty comfortable here with me rubbing this side of his neck. I'm able to flip his mane over. He's giving me some nice sniffs there. Nice and curious. I want to reward that. And he's pretty comfortable because he is more of the confident type where he likes his face touched, and it also helps because the bugs were pretty much bothering him. So I'm able to help him out a little bit there, and he enjoys that. I'm going to work to get a little bit of a yield and then go back. So a lot of kind of going back and forth, kind of not necessarily sticking in one spot. I'm going to see if he'll let me go down a little bit the leg. He did good there. Take the pressure away. Got a little lick and chew. And to the right side, he's a little bit more uncomfortable. See, he kind of wants to position a little bit, but he's okay with it. I'm able to touch past the ribs a little bit, go down the leg, come back up to the neck. And I'm able to find an itchy spot, which is really great if you can get them to feel comfortable enough, and he really gets into it. So we work on being friends here for a minute. And he thought that felt pretty good, that I should resume the scratching on the neck. It really is a pretty much an outgoing personality type, very different from Eton or even Y that had to come out of their shell. He is very out there. So we spent some time here rubbing on the neck. This was a really good itchy spot. It was pretty funny how he did the Flemin's response to it. It felt really good to him. I'm just going to move to the other side. And this is just time that spending, kind of doing that grooming, getting flies off. Not really working on moving and changing directions like I had done yesterday. And just going back and forth and making it feel pretty good by giving him some good scratches. He lets me go down through his chest a little bit more. Not too worried at all. He's just such a funny little horse. Almost got too far into it. He scared himself a bit, which was okay. And then it's nice when I back away, he kind of wants me to kind of come back and take the flies off his face. And you see I'm working on draping that rope over his body just to get him used to that as well. Now I'm kind of playing around with the tag. And sometimes in the beginning they're good with one hand, but you have to kind of build to the two. But he's able to let me do things fairly quickly. But sometimes when he gets uncomfortable, you'll see he'll raise his neck and kind of arch his body because he wants to use that to move me out of his space. That was just a little bit, but I was able to get the tag off. He figured it out. It wasn't a big deal. So I'm gonna sit here and play with his tag for a minute, which was good because it allowed him to do some lick and chews and think about it. Let him sniff it some. And again, he's a little nice and curious right there. And now I'm able to touch a little bit further back. Get him to move off the halter some. Now I'm going to go back to rubbing again. He's not quite as sure about me scratching on the withers as he liked me in the front of the neck, but he allowed me to go ahead and touch around his bum, which was nice. So I work on the reward, telling him he's a good boy, kind of I tend to, with how the horses respond, sometimes you can get it where they know when you touch their face, that's a positive reward. Touch the neck using a higher pitched voice. And he let me touch down lower on his leg, which was nice. You can see he's pretty relaxed through his body. And just kind of going back and forth, walking back and forth, just having a nice little grooming session. He's kind of letting me go all around his rib cage, a little bit further down the leg. Oftentimes I attempt this first with a stick, but he's pretty comfortable, so I'm able to not necessarily have to use a stick. I did it yesterday, and he's not too worried about it, so I can feel comfortable enough to use my body. If I had a more reactive horse, I would definitely use the stick first and then slowly add with your hand. But like I said, he's pretty comfortable with that. Not too worried. He's more so worried about the bugs crawling over his face, which I'm going to have to do something about. But the good news is he's already letting me touch most of his body, and so I'm feeling pretty confident that I'll be able to help him out and get some stuff on his face to make him a little bit more comfortable. I'm just going back and forth, flipping his mane. I introduce a little bit of hopping up and down. He doesn't seem too excited about it, but... And then that time he let me go all the way down to his foot, which was really good. Got a nice little lick and chew there, so he's processing. You know, he's dealing with stress, thinking things through. I'm trying to keep this pretty low key. I'm going to ask him to yield. That was pretty nice. Very, very smart. Very smart guy. I'm going to go back to the scratch. And again, this session was just kind of spending time, seeing if I can touch the neck, the rib cage, and his bum, and then moving down the legs. So after I already touched his leg, I kind of figured, well, I'll play around with the rope a little bit to work on picking up the foot. He did that pretty well. And then I'll move to the other side. Again, this is just to help teach him for when I asked to pick up the foot. That was pretty good. Got a nice little process there. And he doesn't mind when I flap the flies away out of his eyeballs. That was a pretty good session.
Okay. You're a goober. Yeah.
You, I think, will like domestication.